morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice of radio, so today we need to talk about the Paradox Rift pre-release. For a while now, I've been telling you that the pre-release is coming, and I've been telling you that I can't tell you what the promos are. They haven't been revealed. Well, now they have been revealed, ladies and gentlemen, and one of them is very, very good and is actually a very important reveal we've been waiting for. But, you know, that's a little way down the line. I don't think we should start with that one. I think we should go in order like we always do, rank these 1 to 4, and this is an awkward one. There's a clear number 1 for me, but the rest of them are all actually quite good. So in at number 4, I'm going to put Aegislash. And yes, that is the correct pronunciation. However, I want it on the record that I think Aegislash could actually be a very good card. This might be the best set of 4 promos we've had in a long time. For a while now, we've had 1 or 2 decent ones. This is the first time in a while where I'm looking at all of these and I'm like, you know what? I think these could legitimately all be genuinely awesome. Of course, it's interesting because Aegislash did have an artwork rare in the set as well. That was in Raging Surf, the set that it actually came from. It's the only one from Raging Surf, incidentally. And that was done by Takumi Wada, who is, of course, the artist who did a few fake Pokemon cards as like a celebration thing. And this is their first real card. So to give it a pre-release promo as well seems slightly weird to me, because the artwork rare was kind of a big deal, but it doesn't matter. There are 3 different versions, and it's a very cool card. It's basically got Safeguard. It is that card whereby prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's EX and V Pokemon. It's really good. But it's a stage 2. The attack 2 energy 120, not affected by any effects on your opponent's active, is fine. The fact that it goes through effects is really cool, but it's not the reason we like it. It's a decent safeguarding Pokemon that's got decent HP. And yes, I know we've got one at the moment. I know we've got Mimikyu, but I did just say decent HP. The thing is, Mimikyu's sitting there on a fairly paltry 70 HP, so even when you're blocking EXs and Vs, your opponent is going to bring out a little Pokemon, and that little Pokemon may well be able to hit the 70 required to take out a Mimikyu. Are they going to be able to hit the 150 required to take out an Aegislash? Probably not, at least not a lot of the time. However, and I do think this is extremely important, you got to remember that it is a stage 2. Yeah, I've said that a couple times, I'm sorry. That's basically the answer here. If you can get this rolling, it is a really good card. But you've got to actually get it up and rolling, and that's the problem. That's why I essentially put it in at number 4, even though I do think this could be very, 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 very good. Cool? Cool. In at number 3, I'm putting Chi-Yu, and I like Chi-Yu. And this one might actually have an artwork rare. We have no idea, because they haven't been shown off for Ancient Raw and Future Flash yet. So this one we don't know if it's getting an artwork rare or not. All the others we know one way or the other. This one I'm afraid we don't. But this is a very cool card. Again, we've got 110 HP basic here. And we got single energy, attach up to 2 basic fire energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. It's a decent starting Pokemon. For decks that don't mind giving up a prize early because they're playing comeback cards, etc. Remember, Counter Catcher was recently re-revealed, so to speak. So you might want to go down on prizes to activate Counter Catcher. As an example, there's other reasons to do so. Or that you just don't care about giving up a prize in the early game. This is a really good card for sitting in the active and just accelerating a bunch of energy. It's not going to do anything else. All it's going to do is sit in the active and accelerate a bit of energy. But if you're willing to do that, this is actually really good, ladies and gentlemen. This is actually really rather good. 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 And then we got 2 energy, 50 damage. If any of your Pokemon were knocked out by damage from an attack during your opponent's last turn, you do 140 instead. Yeah, this is really good. This is really very good, ladies and gentlemen. We like this very much indeed. Because what we've got here is a very useful attack. if you've given up a prize. If you've just given up a prize, now it does have to be KO'd by damage from an attack, so not dropping damage counters or abilities or anything along those lines. It has to act, or special conditions, though that is during Pokemon Checkup, not your last turn. But the point is, it has to actually be damage from an attack. That's extremely important. But 140 for 2 energy is good, especially if you're hitting for weakness and your fire, so that's basically all grass and metal Pokemon. Yeah, it's pretty good. This has a lot of potential, ladies and gentlemen. There is a lot coming in here. I like accelerating energy in the early game. And as a side note, in a pre-release, if you can get the energy in your discard, which can actually be sneaky difficult with pre-releases sometimes, depending on what cards you get. But if you can, this is actually really very good and something we should be a little bit excited about. Both of these attacks, I think, are genuinely useful. So yeah, this is something I think is pretty gosh darn cool. Now, in at number 2, we've got Iron Bundle, and I think Iron Bundle could be great. As a side note, we know that Iron Bundle is getting an artwork rare, an illustration rare, and we know that it is going to be in the Elite Trainer box, the future one, but unfortunately that one has not been officially revealed yet, so we can't say any more about it, which is very sad, ladies and gentlemen. But hey-ho, what can you do? But this card is pretty great, and this artwork is pretty nice too. Now, we've got free energy, 80, if the defending Pokemon is an evolution Pokemon that can't attack during your opponent's next turn. Potentially kind of useful, and to be fair, do remember that because you're talking about a water Pokemon here, you can use Baxcalibur to accelerate the energy. So this, even though it's free energy on a fairly weak basic, it's not actually the problem it would be a lot of the time because you can pop it in Baxcalibur decks nice and easily. And there will be times where you're facing down an evolution Pokemon and you can basically turn them off for a couple of turns. But if your opponent switches to the bench, that new Pokemon can attack. If they switch to the bench and then come back active, they can attack, etc., etc. If they evolve or if they're a basic Pokemon, there's a million ways around this attack. It's useful, don't get me wrong, but there are a bunch of ways around it. But then we've got the ability Hyper Blower. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is on your bench, you may switch out your opponent's active Pokemon to the bench. Obviously, you are switching it to the bench, so your opponent gets to choose what becomes active. Now, if you do, you have to discard this Pokemon and all attached cards, but you can always use something like a Super Rod to get it back in your deck and reuse the ability. It's not essentially gone away forever, just needs to be recovered from your discard pile. But this is really, 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 really good. We've all seen Escape Rope being used for years at this point. Escape Rope is a very, very, very good card. And the thing about Escape Rope is that it makes your opponent switch, but there are plenty of times it doesn't matter what comes active. Now, one of the classics here is, of course, if your opponent only has one bench Pokemon. If they've only got one bench Pokemon, this is as good as Gusting, because you force that only bench Pokemon into the active, and that's good. Or if their active is the only Pokemon you can't KO, this is really good. Or if your opponent has a bench full of support Pokemon and you're pretty sure they've used all their switching options. There are a bunch of times this becomes really, really good. Or you need to take 2 prizes and the only one prize that they've got is in the active. So you make them switch and whatever comes up has 2 prizes given up on a KO and you can KO it. Whatever. This is a very, very, very good card for a single card tech. Because it's a basic Pokemon, you don't need anything else. This is really, really good. And of course, you've got to bear in mind that unlike Escape Rope, this is searchable. So if I play a Nest Ball here, I can whack this on my bench and then immediately use the ability, and there's not a whole heap my opponent can do about it. Making your opponent switch is good, but having something searchable that can do that is really very good. I love this card. But for me, it's a clear number 1, and it's Xatu. And it might be that actually Iron Bundle in the long run turns out to be the best. Fine. Right now, it's Xatu. And Xatu is actually a sneaky big card to be putting as a pre-release promo, at least at this stage, because I've been telling you I was pretty sure this card was in the set, but this actually came from the Mewtwo EX deck over in Japan. We did not have confirmation this was going to be in Paradox Rift. Now, we thought it was going to be in Paradox Rift. We had confirmation that the Mewtwo, the star of that deck, wasn't going to be in Paradox Rift, and we believed strongly that this card was going to be in Paradox Rift, but we hadn't actually had confirmation that it was going to be in there. Now we do, and this is awesome. This is a big deal, ladies and gentlemen. I love that it's in there. Now, the free energy 80 damage, nobody cares. But the ability here, Clairvoyant Sense, is awesome. Oh, as a side note, we know that this doesn't have an illustration rare because it came in the Mewtwo deck. So it can't have an illustration rare because it didn't have one in that deck. There we go. So what we got is Clairvoyant Sense, an ability. Once during your turn, you may attach a basic Psychic Energy from your hand to one of your bench Pokemon. If you attach energy to a Pokemon in this way, draw 2 cards. This is phenomenal, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it's Shadowrunner Calyrex VMAX's ability, but better. And I do mean better. I don't mean, well, it's on a stage 1, so that makes it better. I mean, it's literally just better, because it can be attached to any of your bench Pokemon, whereas Shadowrunner Calyrex is basically the same ability, but specifically only to bench Psychic Pokemon. It is literally the same ability, but it can attach to anyone, which makes sense, of course, because it was in the Mewtwo deck, and Mewtwo is a Terra Pokemon, which means it is actually a Lightning type. So, yeah, this is phenomenal. We are going to see Psychic Box decks popping up because of this card. We're going to see a bunch of decks that basically play a bunch of different good Psychic Pokemon, knowing that Xatu can accelerate the energy. This is a phenomenal ability. And Shadowrunner Calyrex VMAX was a free prize Pokemon with a weakness rule trying to hit right now. There's a reason that doesn't work as a support Pokemon. This does work as a support Pokemon. I expect to see it seeing a bunch of play. I think this is really, 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 really good. I love this card. For me, it's the number 1. I do think all these cards are genuinely good, and I do accept that Iron Bundle could actually end up being the very best of them. But for me, this is a pretty easy number 1. Right, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you need to know, and now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about these cards. Tell me which is your favourite. Tell me which one you hope to pull from your pre-release. Tell me anything you want to tell me in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and card games and Pokemon card games, all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. And get shoutouts on the channel like the lovely Eric Ridgway, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and is a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.